I feel like I've been talking about this book for like 2 years. and then Finley Donovan knock. I have not yet filmed. Try that again. But it would be helpful to know what the first book is, I'm sure. If you're looking for some YA books to check, like another, that's gross. Hi everybody, it's Audrey and welcome back to Chapter and Converse. And welcome to a bit of a book recommendation video to get you guys in the mood for Series September. So if you haven't already heard, my friends Krista and Sarah are hosting Series September again this year. There's a bingo board. I will link their channels. I will link their videos on their channels talking about Series September. But it's a month-long readathon, read-along. Basically, it's like low-key bingo board for fun, and the whole idea is just to get you to pick up books in series. So like starting them, finishing them, somewhere in the middle, whatever it is, but it's like an all things series extravaganza. So I did this last year. By last month, I mean last year, and had a great time with it. And you guys know, if you follow me or have been here for half a minute, I love series, and I have some that I am like rereading, some I'm in the middle of, some I own but have not started yet, some that I own multiple books in and haven't started yet. So I wanted to try and come up with some books that I don't always talk about. I mean, I maybe made a list of suggestions. We're not going to talk about all these books. And then I also thought I would make a separate video of some of the things that I'm planning to read or would like to read or considering reading in my non-TBR, TBR mode that I get into. But I pulled a bunch of books. I will probably like shout out some off my list as well, just for some ideas. So just to kind of get the juices flowing. If anyone is looking for some inspiration for what to read, looking for something new, or maybe looking for a little feedback on a series, this is the video for you. The first book I wanted to mention is one that I just-ish finished reading. I haven't formally reviewed it on my channel yet, and it's Unsubbed by Meg Gardner. So I have talked about this book multiple times, and I finally read it. I feel like I've been talking about this book for like 2 years. So this is the first in what is currently a 3-book series. It is serial killer vibes, loosely based on the Zodiac Killer, and it is set in and around San Francisco, and we are following our detective Caitlin Hendricks, and she is brought into a case of a serial killer that very much looks like a serial killer that had haunted the Bay Area 20 years earlier. It was a case that her father was the lead detective on. The killer was never caught, and that case basically legitimately like destroyed her father, destroyed her family, and now she is being pulled into it. So this is definitely on the dark side, which I feel like goes without saying. There's definitely some very brutal murdery stuff. It's twisty. I came nowhere near figuring this one out. It's one of those books that just takes you on such a ride. I have not read a Meg Gardner book in ages, and I very much enjoyed this one. So if you were looking for police investigation, because you get a ton of it here, dark and messed up serial killer vibes, and then if you are someone who enjoys sort of ripped from the headlines, Zodiac Killer, Unsubbed, you're gonna get that in this book. So I do have the other 2 books in this series. Spoiler alert, I might try and read one of them, but I also might read the second book in a different serial killer series. So, hold please. So another book that I have talked about recently, also police detective serial killer vibes, is Ragdoll by Daniel Cole. I need to put this book down. Cons of filming in a chair. So I did talk about this one recently a lot, and I read this book in 2 days. I did a combo of reading and audiobook, but this is also police detective, also serial killer vibes, also very dark and messed up, also very gruesome crime scenes. So you can see a bit of a theme here, and I think I might read Hangman, which is book number 2 in this, but we'll see. So in this one, we meet Wolf and Emily Baxter. They are detectives, they are former partners, and they are brought together again when the book opens at this very gruesome is used a lot in the reviews of this book for good reason, crime scene of 6 body parts from 6 different people that are stitched together into one human body, and it becomes dubbed the Ragdoll in the press. And Wolf's ex-wife is a very popular journalist, and she winds up getting a list of 6 more names who the Ragdoll killer is targeting next, and Wolf's name is number 6 on the list. So this becomes the case of having to figure out who the first 6 people are, and then trying to stop the Ragdoll killer from killing the next 6 people. So this is such a complex, complicated, interesting, well-executed book. There is a lot of gore in this, but I very much felt it served the story, and as someone who can be squeamish about that, I did not take issue with it in this book. The audiobook is tremendous. There is some legitimate dark humor in this book, which is very well portrayed, relayed in the audiobook, but I really enjoyed this. And if you have seen the TV show adaptation and are wondering, the book is better. I would still read this book or maybe just dive into number 2, but the TV show definitely deviates and does not mirror a lot of what happens in the book. So the book would be a completely different experience, even if you've already seen the show. But also tremendous police investigation, serial killer vibes. If you're looking for a mystery thriller-ish, but a little bit lighter, and I do have people ask me about something a little bit lighter every once in a while, the Kate White Bailey Wagon series is really fun. And this is kind of midway in the series. I think you can start this series wherever you want. This is Over Her Dead Body. I just kind of pulled one off the shelf. And she is a crime writer. She works for kind of a Cosmo magazine-ish type of thing in New York City. So Kate White used to be the editor-in-chief of Cosmo. So you see a lot of wink, wink, nod, nod to her life. But in this book, Bailey is now working for a new job at a place called Buzz, and she winds up finding her boss basically bludgeoned to death, but I swear it's not really violent. So the degree of crime scene is nothing like in those first 2 books, but this is kind of a mix of, there's a bit of romance in these books, and I feel like that's the only thing that's like spoiled if you read the books out of order, is maybe if she's in a different relationship in one of the books, but it's not really like this. The series doesn't really hinge on that, I don't think, but there is multiple books in this series. It's been a while. So If Looks Could Kill is the first one, A Body to Die For, Till Death Do Us Part, and then we have Over Her Dead Body, and then I feel like there's 2 more after that. But it's just sort of a lighter, equally entertaining, kind of a mix of, I feel like, women's fiction with murder, so you do get like that romance element to it, and then you will get a lot of like New York City and kind of the magazine business, a little bit of like celeb to it. These books came out, let me see, years ago, but there's a lot more maybe kind of like brand name dropping and like a certain bag and a certain shoe, and like fashion plays a little bit of a role in it, just in a very light kind of setting the tone for the atmosphere of the books in the magazine industry. And why can't I find the right page? 2005. So I feel like early 2000s are when these books started, and journalist kind of, crime writer, winds up becoming a bit of a detective and solving some mysteries. So fun, easily consumable, fast, quick, easy reads, just a fun series. I of course realize that most of the books I picked are police mystery type of series, because those tend to be the books I feel like lend a series. But one book that I've talked about before that is kind of on my list, I mean, we'll see where the world goes, but it's again Rachel by Marion Keyes. So Rachel's Holiday is the first book in the Rachel duology, but all of these books revolve around the Walsh sisters. So they're all kind of in the series, companion novels to one another. Again, I feel like you can certainly start anywhere you want to if you haven't read any of Marion Keyes' books with the Walsh sisters in it. And again, I feel like the only thing that gets spoiled is you might know somebody else's ending from one of the books, but I also feel like it's totally fine. So there are 5 sisters in the Walsh family, and they each get their own book, and they're funny and they're smart and they're witty, and there's definitely some weightier topics. And in Rachel's case, in Rachel's Holiday, she was living the fast life in New York City. She winds up in the emergency room getting her stomach pumped from an accidental overdose, and winds up going back to Ireland and into a rehab center, which she views as sort of like a celebrity spa sort of a situation, and like she's going on holiday, hence the name. And it really is about addiction and going through the program and her confronting her life in New York and coming to a reality check of how bad things maybe were, and she was really just in denial of what her life was like and what she was kind of getting into. So it's a really good book. I have talked about this before. Marian Keyes actually does the audiobook of Rachel's Holiday, and I realize I'm holding up the second book, but this one just came out a couple months ago, 6 months ago, and it continues her story. So I had reread Rachel's Holiday with the intention of diving straight into this, and my bookmark is on the first page of chapter 1. So I wound up going in a different direction at the time, but I love me some Marian Keyes. So if you were not looking for anything detective-y, but still something a little weighty, her books are absolutely tremendous, but also you will laugh your butt off. If you're looking for a little YA to dive into, I've got some standbys here. Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson. This is currently a 4-book series. The 5th book is coming out, I want to say, at the end of December. And then also A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. This is a 3-book series by Holly Jackson. Both of these books are great young female protagonists, wind up looking into mysteries that are sort of close to home for both of them. There's weightier subject matter in both of these books as well, and they're just so tremendously well done. They're really, really smart, and I had a great time with both of these series. I've read all of the books in both of these series so far and plan to read Holly Jackson's new one, which is a standalone, and when the next Maureen Johnson comes out, I will be reading that too. I'm leaning down. And then another book series, I talk a lot about the Inheritance Game series by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. The Final Gambit comes out on August 30th, which is the 3rd and supposedly final book in that series, which I'm very excited about. But Jennifer Lynn Barnes had also written another series before that called The Naturals, and I read this book years ago. Like, was commuting on a train is how long ago I read this book. So I think it might have been like 2019-ish I read this. So this is a 4 or 5 book series, I should know because I have them all. And I think it would be fun to reread this because I haven't read it in years, and then dive into this series. So this is kind of like a teenage FBI kind of a mode, and similar in some concept to None Shall Sleep, which I've talked about before. In this book, we have teenagers who wind up getting recruited by the FBI to help solve some cold cases. So our main character in this one is Cassie. She's 17, and they all get brought together for this program called The Naturals because they all sort of have a natural gift is sort of the idea. Not in like a supernatural kind of a way, but in a very much grounded in reality kind of a way. So I also very much enjoyed this book. And then she also has another series. So it's The Fixer. Ooh, it's gonna be above my camera. So The Fixer and Long Gone, which I haven't read yet, which also have like DC, I think maybe CIA kind of scandal fixer vibes to it. So Jennifer Lynn Barnes is not afraid of writing a series, which makes me totally happy. Back to Murdery Serial Killers, 13 by Steve Kavanaugh. I cannot recommend this book enough, you guys. This is actually the 4th book in a series, which I didn't know when I read it, and I know a lot of people who have read this book and not read anything before it in the series, and you can dive right into this one. So this is one of those books where I feel like the only thing you need to know is the tagline, which is the serial killer isn't on trial, he's on the jury. This book is dark. So in this book, you are in the mind of the serial killer, which is crazy terrifying. And then you are also following Eddie Flynn, who is the attorney who is defending our main character, who's been accused of killing his girlfriend and bodyguard. So he is like a famous celebrity actor. And again, you don't need to read the original books in this series. Go for it if you want to. I have not, but this is definitely one of those books that I compulsively read and was blown away by. I haven't read this one in years, but it's so, so good. I feel like I'm gonna talk a mile a minute so that I can talk about as many books as humanly possible. But another series with a police FBI vibe to it, because again, that tends to be what becomes a series. This is the Ellery Hathaway series. So this, All the Best Lies, is actually book number 3 in the series. So the first book in the series is The Vanishing season, and that also has some serial killer vibes to it. So Ellery in present day is a police detective outside of Boston, and when she was a teenager, she actually escaped a serial killer. and some things start to happen in the present day that harken back to what happened to her as a kid, and she winds up calling the FBI agent who rescued her when she was a kid, Reed Markham, who's one of my favorite characters, and they sort of band together to figure out what's going on in present day. So that's book number 1. I don't want to tell you about 2 or 3 because there's more things going on, but I am eager to dive back into the series. I have no excuse for why I haven't. This is currently a 4-book series, I want to say, and then she has a second series also with a detective, Annalisa Vega. So if you've already read this one, just know Joanna Schaffenhausen also has another series out there. I always recommend the Patricia Cornwell Kay Scarpetta series. If you really want to like get into a series, this is 20+ books. Postmortem is the first book, and I am in the process, it's been a while, of rereading this series, but this is one of the first books that got me like rehooked on the darker side of things, even though I still dipped my toe a lot in more contemporary at the time, but this was sort of like a whole gateway into a whole new world of murder mysteries when I started reading those. My old boss gave me that book. So now I'm gonna refer to my list for just a couple more books. Obviously you can always dive into an Agatha Christie book. Anywhere in the series, I feel like you can start in those as well. I'm a huge fan. I would love to be able to read through like the bulk of her collection over the course of my lifetime, which is doable if I put my mind to it. So we'll see if I pick up an Agatha Christie. Finley Donovan is Killing It by Elle Cosimano is another great one. And Finley, she's over here. And then Finley Donovan Knocks 'Em Dead is book number 2, and book number 3 I want to say is coming out in January. This is very Dead to Me vibes, the Christina Applegate, Linda Cardellini book, and I also likened it to like if Lucy and Ethel hijinks were also solving mysteries. So in book number 1, Finley is a mystery writer. She is at a Panera with her agent, and they are talking about the plot of her book. Someone overhears her and mistakes her for a hit woman and basically slips her some money and asks her to kill her husband. And Finley is desperate and down on her luck and in dire need of money because her husband has left her for their realtor, and he is just a bag of not good dude. And Finley's a little bit tempted by the offer. So hijinks ensue. Great series, very, very fun. Huge fan of those. If you want some romance, the Brown Sister series by Talia Hibbert is great. So I listened to all 3 of these books on audio, and it's a British narrator. I completely enjoyed them. So it's Get a Life, Chloe Brown, Take a Hint, Danny Brown, and then Act Your Age, Eve Brown. Danny is still my favorite of the 3 books. So these books are definitely sort of a mix of light and funny and smutty, but also there is a lot of depth to these books. There's a lot of heavy topics that are in these books, and it gets woven in with kind of friends to lovers and fake dating and friends with benefits. And it is sort of each one of these sisters at a certain place in their life, and they are either finding themselves, figuring things out. We get a lot of body positivity. Chloe is living with chronic pain. We have depression, we have anxiety, we have grief, autism. We have people who are just trying to find their place with their family, and a lot of love between the sisters. A lot of mistakes are being made, living with consequences of those mistakes, and really just kind of figuring out who they are. But again, there's a lot of humor, and definitely on the like very smutty side. I was shocked. I was not aware of it. So like shocked in the sense where I was like, wow, it is very open door. All open. But if you like that, I would really recommend these books. Danny, again, it's my favorite, and I just had such fun time with these books. Also, if you are gearing up for The Winners by Frederick Bachman coming out in the Beartown series, you could read Beartown, which I have over here. My goal is to reread Beartown and Us Against You, which are the first 2 books in the series. So The Winners comes out the end of September. So this is definitely a beautiful series, really well written. Again, kind of a mix of heartwarming moments. I cried. There's a lot of weight to this. This is a hockey team, and the star of the hockey team is accused of sexually assaulting the coach's daughter at a party one night, and it is how that moment literally splits this town and divides everyone. And it is just an absolutely incredible read. His writing is outstanding. I was in awe of this book. This is one of the first books of like a BookTube made me do it back in the day, and I was just struck by how amazing this book was. So that's a great one if you are looking for some, I would say, I guess, literary fiction, but also some weightier topics. If you're looking for some levity and some fun and some love, but also some weightier topics, Boyfriend Material by Alexis Hall. I have not yet filmed, try that again, my August wrap up. So this will be in it. Husband Material came out in August, which I haven't read yet. I'm actually saving it for series September, but this is fake dating with Luke and Oliver. And I just absolutely loved this book. The dog ears should like tell the story. I listened to audio, did a read along with this, read some of it live, read physically the book. Really, really beautiful story, really great. And again, definitely can get like a little bit smutty and inappropriate, but like just amazing humor in this. Loved it. And then the last book I want to talk about, which was not a series until we found out there's going to be a book number 2, is The Kind Worth Killing by Peter Swanson, which I know I talk about all the time. But if you have not yet read this one, now is the time, because A Kind Worth Saving, or The Kind Worth Saving, is coming out, I want to say March 2023. I will fact check that and let you guys know. This is the first Peter Swanson book I read, and I was blown away. I haven't read this book since I originally read this book, but this is another one I would love to reread before the second book comes out. So this is Strangers on a Plane / Strangers Meet at an Airport. So in this one, Ted and Lily are at Heathrow. They are waiting for their flights back to Boston. Their flight is delayed. They meet at the bar. They have a couple cocktails and are just sort of exchanging their stories. And Ted confesses that his wife is cheating on him, and he's basically like, God, I want to kill her. And Lily's like, I can help you do that. And that's where this book begins. And this book went into so many different directions. I feel like this was like a Whiplash kind of a book, but in a very fair play kind of a way, like well-earned twists. So I'm just a huge fan of this book, and I push it all the time, and I know I do, but for good reason, I promise. So if you haven't read it, now's the time. Or if you were looking for an excuse, now's the time. So on that note, let me take a breath. And I think when I get into, because some of this is like books I plan to read, or there's crossover, I will get into some of the books I'm planning to read, which are further into a series in some cases, and then can give you guys some more suggestions there as well. But hopefully this was helpful. Hopefully some of these books will kind of, like I say, strike a chord or maybe inspire you guys to pick something up. But let me know if you're planning to participate in series September. I think you should. It's just fun. It's just fun. And it's like a low-key, like you do you. I mean, you can pick one book and have it fit 5 prompts or something like that, but I've done a couple bingo boards lately and just find that it's just a fun way to maybe pick up something I normally wouldn't, or to steer me in a certain direction. And I also am enjoying sort of playing a bit of a game and competing with myself to get it done. So I'm having fun with it. But again, all the details are down below, what the prompts are. Sarah and Krista's channels are down below as well. But let me know if you're participating. Let me know some series you would suggest, ideas, anything like that as well. How many times can I say as well? And I'm gonna go. So thanks guys for being here, spending part of your time with me, and I will see you guys in another video really soon. Bye everybody.